Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering, can I make money writing books? I know people who've generated six-figure revenue from their books, and I know people who've fallen far short of their revenue goals, and I want you to avoid those same costly mistakes. If you're someone who thinks that book sales are the biggest driver of revenue for books, let this video serve as a wake-up call. By the end of this video, you will learn why a book is only the beginning and why there's value in multiple books. And stay tuned until the end of the video for a free opportunity. Let's dive in. So to answer the question, yes, you can make money and generate revenue from your book. Some of it could be substantial, but it really requires you to follow a process and follow a set standard of steps. There's so much revenue potential that you could unlock, but you need to unlock it first. If you don't unlock it, it's like an unused gate. It's an unused opportunity. It's this add-on that you haven't taken advantage of, and it just sits unused. I think back to some of my clients. I think back to some of the books that I've worked on, and people always had these lofty aims. I want to inform people in this industry. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then they rushed out a book, put it on Amazon, and nothing happened. Crickets, nothing, silence. It has 3 book reviews after a year, and I don't know that anybody read it. That's a problem. That's a mistake. That's a misfire. So you think about all the money and effort and energy that goes into writing a book, and then you think about the outcomes. What were the outcomes of that book? Nothing. Nothing at all. And it's not to say that it wasn't worth writing. It's to say that there was this little piece, this little thing that got lost in the mix. And it's something that I didn't even know early on in my book writing journey. When I first started book ghostwriting in 2019, I thought a call to action was simply something that you added at the end of the book. Hey, check out my website at this link if you're interested in more. That it was just this little simple thing, but it's more than that. It's a bigger piece. It's connecting all the dots to the book and starting this conversation, starting this journey with the reader. That the book is only the beginning of the journey, and then you're taking this journey forward with them. They are a part of this network, this build that you're putting together. They're part of this bigger thing, and it's so special when you can start this journey. And a lot of times it's getting people to go to your website, signing up for your email funnel so you can send emails to them, and over time they may want to become clients of yours. That's where revenue opportunities really come in with books. It's the opportunities that get created from the book itself. I think back to some of my clients who've had success with revenue potential, and it was always because they were so good at starting the conversation from the book and getting people to want to continue working with them and collaborating with them, that they had something important to share. And even by giving it away in this book, giving away the lessons and ideas, that the reader wanted to take the step forward, to become a client of theirs, to work with their company, to use their consulting services, and they end up spending tens of thousands of dollars to work with this consultant who wrote this book. By connecting the dots on that little thing, there's so much revenue potential that otherwise would have been unrealized, that would have been completely lost. If you just wall it off and end the conversation there, nothing happens again. But it's really about this next step, and it's about this journey. It warms my heart when I think about my friend Jonathan Stanley. He wrote a book called Purposeful Performance, and we collaborated after he finished his draft to really refine his message. And he published it and went viral on TikTok. He sold 12,000 copies of the book in a span of a week. National bestseller overnight. Super, super proud of him, super excited, There's so much opportunity that's now going to become available because of this whole thing. If he had not done the work, if he had not dug deep on his message and his story and how this resonated beforehand, even with the viral TikTok moment, the follow-through wouldn't have been there. The next steps wouldn't have been there. It's all about connecting all these pieces together and writing a book that's going to matter and that's going to resonate. Not just a rush, but to spend the time to get it right. And when I was working with him, I kept telling him, we were going back and forth. I kept telling him, I feel like this is going to happen. This book is going to take off, and I don't know when, and I don't know where. He said, my goal was to impact one person, to change one person's life. And I told him, you actually did. You impacted mine. You really inspired me with your book. And it was this great moment, this really special and proud moment. And I think to the short-sighted nature of book sales. Like, he generated revenue from book sales, and I'm super excited about that. You know, I'm really interested more about the conversations he's now having that he wasn't having before. The rooms he's getting invited into that weren't available to him previously. You know, you think of a book as the ultimate business card. Think about what a business card can do. It maybe get somebody to call you back. It maybe get somebody to invite you somewhere. He just got a hand stamp, you know, for something bigger because he spent the time to do it right. And he's not just focused on book sales, he's focused on influence and impact. You know, by doing those things, by infusing your book with purpose and meaning and thinking about the bigger picture, you're not going to care about book sales, you know, because it's about having impact with one person at a time. If you're doing that, the book sales will fall into place. But again, book sales are secondary. You know, I don't want you to think of book sales first as like the thing. You know, it's funny to me when I think about the money that Jonathan has generated from book sales, and I think about some of my other clients who have had books sell 100, 200, 300 copies, and because they had a robust sales funnel underneath it, they made the same amount of money that Jonathan's making, you know, from a couple hundred sales because people became clients of their company. So it's this balance, you know, and then I go back to some other projects where I thought they would be super successful. I've worked with people who've spent $10,000 or more in book marketing because they thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to get this message out to the masses. I'm going to spend a lot of money and effort and time and energy promoting the book. But because there wasn't a funnel attached, because there was no sales offering, because there was no next step in the journey, they weren't gathering emails, they weren't reaching out to people in that way, all of that money was just flushed away. It was wasted. And I think it was an important lesson, you know, that just visibility itself, it's just going to fall through the cracks. You know, just like sand through a sieve, it just gets like just sand through your fingertips. It just sifts, it drifts down, you know, because you haven't connected all those pieces. So just the visibility by itself isn't going to give you the answer. You know, just by pushing and pushing and pushing it, you really need to unlock the underlying pieces to your book and your message and connect them to a sales funnel. And if you can do that, there's opportunity to be had. In essence, your book is a secondary thing. Your book is the springboard to other things, you know, speaking tour, other opportunities, you know, better interviews that get you another job, that get you the dream job, that, you know, get you promoted to CEO. I don't know. It could be anything. Taking advantage of the opportunities and connecting all those pieces, you know, and looking at those secondary goals, those secondary outcomes, what you want to actually accomplish from the book and not the book itself. Being able to take those steps is going to take you much further than simply writing the book and just setting and forgetting and hoping against hope that things happen. It's not how things work. There's really value in putting out book series as well. Over time, it can be valuable to see people drift from book one to book two. You know, we've talked a little bit about call to action and sales funnel, but you know, there's so many lessons that maybe you didn't cover in book one, and now you can reach a new audience with book two. And it just builds this stronger connection, this thread of connectiveness to be able to carry people from multiple books and also to reach people in different places to help them along the way. And there's so many things that evolve over time too that you might want to update. But multiple books are great because, you know, you don't know which book is going to break out. You don't know which book is going to take the leap, you know? And maybe it's book one, maybe it's book three, you know? And now it forces people to go back to book one. Now it makes people want to work with you even more. That you're hitting them again and again and again with quality content. This isn't just about putting out junk. This is about putting out quality content, high quality stuff that people are engaged. They want to work with you. They want to get to know you. They're, you know, interested in just learning more about you and reading more about you and reading what you have to put out in the world because they're intrigued by what you're saying. You're putting out important messages, you know? If you don't put out important messages that resonate with them, there's no reason to want to keep reading. There's no reason to want to go from one book to another, you know, but you can build this step-by-step process and this platform of growth by putting out multiple books. You know, there's a power of multiplicity when it comes with books and book series, you know, and multiple books and getting to reach people where they are. You know, don't try to cram everything into one book. Think about what the focus is, the main focus for book one. Maybe there's a secondary focus that you can drift into book two. another focus for book 3. You could go on and on and on instead of trying to cram everything into one, because if you try to shoehorn stuff in, it's just going to get lost in the mix, because your ideal reader, because your reader of one isn't going to know what they're supposed to read and what they're supposed to care about. There's so much opportunity that comes with being focused on your topic, focused on what's the matter at hand, and by doing that, you create so much more opportunities. So when you're thinking about your book, think about clarity. Clarity is so important with your message. If you can have a clear message, those opportunities can become available. If your message is not clear and the reader's struggling to figure out what they're supposed to learn from your book, they're not taking the next step with you. It's a non-starter. So clarity matters, and clarity can lead you to multiple books, because now you're focusing on this message and this message and this message instead of cramming all into one. If you want to learn more about can I make money writing books, you'll definitely want to check out another video I recorded. I'll link to it on the screen. It's called How to Start Writing a Book About Your Life. In that video, I focus on all of the elements that lead to a successful book, book foundation work, book writing tips, and just steps to empower you on your way. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.